a very interesting moment. Amy said already, you know, that there's been this kind of opening up, loosening up of the curriculum from years of prescriptive curriculum specifications. And this is the latest version of it, of course, in the introduction of the current, just introduced national curriculum. There's this business of saying, well, instead of saying, you know, the national curriculum or this strategy or that strategy should be regarded as it were, the template for teachers' work. Now we've got this little leeway which says, well, in fact, the national curriculum is only one but many parts of what the students should experience in school. And of course, related issue then is for teachers to think about things a bit more freely and openly. Now, not that I'm suggesting that until this moment we haven't been thinking, but now there's an official space. That's all I'm saying, okay? And that's useful because, you know, for too long, EAL has been written out of the national curriculum. And to the extent that, for example, back in 2006 or so, in one of the aiming high or such, you know, those folders, it was specifically stated that, for example, in relation to assessment, no other, as it were, non-English subject curriculum attainment level should be used for summative assessment. In other words, there ain't no difference between additional language and first language. But of course, after this morning, we passionately believe that is not right, okay, after Kenneth's talk. So, we see, for example, now EAL in the school curriculum and pupils are in a pedagogic space. So they're not just anything, they are specific individuals, as we saw in Kenneth's input, that there are different circumstances, different factors at work. Some are individual and some are to do with the classroom. And that's what Amy, I think, been able to tell us, so that in the classroom there is all kinds of things, but it all actually matters. The issue is what exactly is going on in the classroom. But beyond that, there is structure. By that I mean the school structure, the school environment, the national curriculum, or any other kind of curriculum. If you're in an international school, you would experience a different kind of curriculum regime. And beyond that, the space is well within something called society. And then the society itself has some impact, reaching all the way back into the school environment, the structuring of the curriculum, the way teachers may or may not think about what they do. And so if this English as an alternative language thing is going to catch on, then there will be a whole set of different, as it were, expectations as to what happens, what is legitimate behavior in the classroom. How to express passion, teaching, I think, is going to be one of the things that we have to think about. And of course, the individual always matters. And that for too long, if you keep thinking about system, curriculum, and so on, the individual is often left out of account. So they would be, by default, imagined to be some sort of, vessel for reception of the things that we pour into, as it were, their heads. But of course, we know now it's not the case. So far this morning, we've heard from Kenneth. Individual pupils experience their English language learning in different ways, age, context, and so on. That's one part of it. But also, at the same time, their additional language development is influenced by cognitive, wider cross-lingual, maturational, social factors. So already, even if we're thinking about the one individual in front of us in the classroom, we are already thinking about complexity of some sort, okay? So these are not all the same, all the individuals. Amy tells us what goes on in the classroom really matters, no matter what we call our teaching approach. So we should feel quite free to call ourselves clue teacher if that's what we do, but it's what happens that really matters on Amy's account. And from all of us, we know, we don't need to be told this. In our daily work, in school and as in universities and colleges, what we do is often subject to some degree of influence by policies and initiatives, promoting different teaching approaches, different assessment approaches. So the national strategy, for those of us who were working then a few years ago, would obviously have a good idea fresh memory, I would imagine, how we are meant to be working with our pupils, doing something called literacy, in the literacy hour if you're primary, okay? Now we have this emphasis on phonics for reading in the latest iteration of the national curriculum. And now, even more interestingly, assessment without levels, which is fresh, brand new in the last 2 or 3 months. And this is going to be, you know, raising all kinds of very interesting questions in terms of the structure, the environment, the curriculum provision. What's allowable, what is not officially, okay? And then we clearly have the social environment, society impacting on the education system, reaching all the way into the classroom, and some of the consequences of the social, if you like, values can be seen very concretely. It's not something vague. So why is it that EAL provision, in fact EAL is called different things in different countries. Why is it that in different countries like the United States, different parts of the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, have different policies? After all, they are, you know, in a way, similar kind of people. They need to learn English as an additional language. Why are they called different names? English language learner in the United States. In Australia, they're progressively turning what they used to call ESL into EAL at all levels of education. And then they have different provisions. In California, if you're a new arrival, you are entitled to a 1 year, as it were, program of structured, sheltered English language instruction. Here, we are mainstreaming everybody at day 1, and so on. So that, why? Well, that's clearly a fact of social values and politics, not educational. And why is EAL not given official subject status in the national curriculum? Interesting question. Is it any less than, for example, English? Clearly not, for those people who are having to learn it. Is it any less than science? I wouldn't have argued that case. Is it any less than music? I'm sure you know the answer.